According to reports, Iran was quite literally minutes away from strikes on Israel. But the Pakistanis said, hey, don't do it. The U.S. is going to rein Israel in. We went from immediate Lebanon ceasefire or we'll strike back to we need to have a ceasefire or we won't go to Pakistan to ceasefire or we won't talk directly with U.S. to if you don't bomb Beirut, we'll negotiate directly to Lebanon ceasefire in a few days is maybe acceptable if you do it, right? It's a slippery slope. It's not a good look. Israel's bombing southern Lebanon again with white phosphorus munitions for the second time today. We are now on day 4, at the end of day 4 of the supposed ceasefire, I guess, right? It is day 4. And apparently a ceasefire means that Israel can bomb Beirut, they can bomb Al-Dahia, they can threaten to invade and occupy and besiege the city of Bint Jebel in the south of Lebanon. And they can also drop white phosphorus munitions all across Lebanese territory. Take a listen to the insanity of this all being broken down by Tucker Carlson. I do have to add before he adds some commentary here that, I've been to Lebanon once. I spent a little bit of time there during the funeral of Sayed in Beirut and Al-Dahia. I also went to the south. I went to the tip of the border, which is currently being occupied by the IDF. And we were standing directly across IDF troops on the other side of the hill, and they had a tank pointed at us. And I will confidently say that Lebanon, the food, the country, the terrain itself, the sea, the mountains, the hills, the people, by far and away, one of the most beautiful places in every single aspect I've ever seen in my entire life. And it is just such a travesty to see what is going on here. For any people, for any country, for any civilization, right? But for Lebanon in particular, I mean, it's just like that much more upsetting. Obviously, a very historical, religious land as well. Jesus performed his first miracle in the territory that is now Lebanon. Israel, of course, in 2024, bombed the mausoleum, what some believe is the mausoleum of the Apostle St. Peter in the south of Lebanon. So this is it's a crime on so many levels. It's disgusting on so many levels, but I'll let Tucker take it away here.
Very shortly, within hours of the president announcing this, Israel, our unmentioned partner in this war, decided to bomb civilians in Beirut, Lebanon. Bomb civilians, apartment blocks. That's not anti-Israeli hyperbole. That's not blood libel. That is measurably true because there's video of it. A lot of it, because Beirut is one of the greatest and most civilized cities on the planet. It's not Yemen. Lots of people have been to Beirut.
Hey, Tucker, why is he always got to throw shade at something or someone? Like one time he was praising Lebanon and then he said like something about like Shia. I'm like, bro, it's mostly Shia. What are you talking about? Why is he always got to throw shade? It's not Yemen. Bro, you never been to Yemen. You never been to Yemen. I'm not saying like, you gotta go to every single place you talk about to know about it. I'm just saying like, if you're gonna say something ignorant about a country, maybe Tucker goes to Yemen and he understands that, Yemen also, surprise, surprise, has a little bit more culture and history to it than Manhattan. Who would have thought? No, Yemen has the old city of Sana'a is, one of the oldest cities on the face of the earth. Sana'a, Yemen, the old city part, right? It is right up there with Damascus and Aleppo, Syria, which are also believed to be two of the oldest cities on the face of the earth. Yemen is an incredibly rich civilization and a beautiful civilization. And also Socotra Island, which I don't know who controls Socotra Island right now. I'd imagine it used to be the UAE. Maybe now it's like UN, Saudi control. I don't know. But I mean, like, it literally has Socotra Island might just be like the most beautiful place on the face of the earth. I'm not even kidding. If you have never heard of Socotra Island, I've never been there. But if you've never heard of Socotra Island, look up a YouTube video and your mind is about to be blown. They literally have like tons of plants that grow there that you can't find anywhere else on the face of the earth. And it literally looks like a fantasy world. But okay, we're going to move past the Yemen shade.
Beirut is also, by the way, the capital of the only country in the Middle East whose president is a Christian. The president of Lebanon has always been a Christian since the founding of the country, over 100 years. In some basic sense, this is a Christian country. It's certainly a Christian-led country, and it's not a primitive country. Probably one of the top 3 most beautiful places in the world, but it's also one of the most civilized places in the world. Very shortly.
Also, this needs to be said. I mean, yeah, the whole Christian leadership thing, I'm not going to get in the middle of like Lebanese politics. That's how you get a headache very quickly. But what I will say is, I'm trying to make a comparison here, right? Like Netanyahu literally bombs what is believed to be, St. Peter's mausoleum, bombs churches, bombs Christians all over the place, right? Desecrates Christian Holy Land, basically directs settlers to spit on and take over the land of Christians left and right in countries X, Y, and Z. But what I will say is, you listen to the speeches of the martyr Syed, you know who I'm talking about. I don't really want to say the names of people that could get me in trouble on YouTube, but you know who I'm talking about, Lebanon's martyr Syed, and listen to his speeches about Christianity. I mean, frankly, I don't think you could find many American politicians that could speak so eloquently, profoundly, or intelligently as Syed spoke about Christianity as he did. So what does that tell you? And these are people who protect Christian sites in Lebanon, who defend them, who put their lives on the line to defend Christian towns, Christian holy sites, Christian churches, and so on. So I think that's worth noting here. Now, what I wanted to talk about with this story is, and I'm taking longer than I probably need to get to the point, but I was distracted by some of that, was, in the first hours of the so-called ceasefire, where Lebanon was getting bombed in, Beirut was getting bombed in, IRGC commander went out and gave a public speech in Tehran, and he said, "We are preparing a heavy response to the barbaric crimes of the regime on Lebanon." And in Iran, in Tehran, there were chants of "Rootless Israel, Lebanon will not be left alone." So, there are all these statements from the Iranians saying our fingers on the trigger, we'll respond, we're preparing the response right now, it's going to be a deafening blow and whatnot. The Iranian member of parliament, he, I think, was quite clear when he said, Dr. Amir Hossein Sabati, who is the campaign advisor, chairman of the Saad Jalili campaign for president in the last Iranian elections, he said, as predicted, the enemy immediately violated the ceasefire, and Ghalibaf correctly stated that with the violation of the ceasefire, further negotiation is no longer logical. But merely declaring a position is not enough. Israel and the U.S. bases must, again, come under action, and they show that Iran's response is balanced. Okay, so that didn't happen. There was no Iranian response, and the reason for that, according to the Iranians and even the Pakistanis, is that Iran was on the verge of responding to the Israeli ceasefire violation, but Pakistan intervened and conveyed messages regarding U.S. control over Israel. That was from Iran's deputy foreign minister. In fact, according to reports, Iran was quite literally minutes away from strikes on Israel. But the Pakistanis said, hey, don't do it. The U.S. is going to rein Israel in. Did they do that? No, because for like the next, 2 days or whatever, we saw Israeli strikes on Beirut, on, suburbs and residential areas in Lebanon, and it continued unabated. In fact, so there's minutes away from striking them. In fact, we didn't see this until about later in the day on, I think it was like nighttime, April 9th into the 10th, Israel had ordered an evacuation for the entirety of southern Beirut. Okay, that was on day 2 of the ceasefire. The entirety of southern Beirut, there was an evacuation notice that was issued, and they actually ended up, as far as I remember, not following through on the threat to strike all of southern Beirut. Okay, so Israel has continued the hefty targeting of southern Lebanon. They bombed the Qasimiya Bridge, which was the last bridge that connected the south of Lebanon with the rest of Lebanon over the Litani River. And the plan for Israel, they've been quite clear about this, is to occupy all of the south, which they've tried to do in the past, but have failed every single time, no matter how long it took. So the IDF announced 2 days ago that they were surrounding the city of Bin Jebel in Lebanon and aimed to launch an offensive to occupy it. Since they made that announcement and threat, there has been heavy fighting ongoing in Bin Jebel, and there have been many Israeli casualties in terms of military hardware and personnel in the process of them taking Bin Jebel. This Lebanese Sunni Muslim man, in an interview with, is this Al-Manar, I forget which news outlet this is, he said, "We are asking Iran not to abandon us. We, Lebanese, have no one, and our prime minister is asleep." Because the prime minister / the president of Lebanon are saying that they want to negotiate directly with the Israelis, and that Iran doesn't negotiate for them. They want to negotiate directly with the Israelis. But if they do that, there's guaranteed going to be more bombing, at least of the south of Lebanon. So I don't really know what, the Iranians were the only ones that stopped the bombing on Beirut. The Iranians are the only ones that are pressuring for the bombings to stop on the south of Lebanon and for a return to, what is it, the 1703 declaration, where Israel has to completely remove from their occupied territories, which they held even before the start of the Iran war, obviously. So here are some photos and videos of the destruction. This was April 9th, some of the destruction that Israel had wrought onto Lebanese society. Huge airstrikes all over the place. But after we saw the backtracking of the threat to bomb Beirut, there were no more strikes on Beirut. We did see lots of strikes in the south of Lebanon. However, this was the end of the day 2 of the ceasefire. On the third day of the ceasefire, we got these videos. This is from the south of Lebanon. I've been there. It literally does look like Gaza. It does look like this. There's literally nothing left standing. It is a horrifying, tragic sight. Yesterday, we also saw an Israeli strike targeted the Lebanese health authorities' ambulances teams in the Deir Kanoun junction in southern Lebanon. It's so bad in the south of Lebanon that the medical teams, the ambulances, they had to remove the medical emblem from the top of their vehicles because Israel was purposefully targeting ambulances and, medical teams and Red Crescent teams in the south of Lebanon. So, a good portion of the medical teams actually removed, their emblems from their vehicles because Israel was purposefully bombing them for, years on end. So this was yesterday, day 3 as well. We saw tons of strikes in the south. Day 3, Hezbollah carried out 35 attacks against Israel yesterday. We also saw a bunch of attacks today. And then we got this at the end of last night. Okay, at the end of last night, we saw there will be an immediate ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. The announcement is expected as soon as tomorrow. So this was, I guess, right before the Iranians took off for Pakistan. There was this idea that, there's going to be a ceasefire tomorrow. That was reported in Israeli media, as well as in some of the Arab media. Following severe Iranian pressure, an announcement regarding a ceasefire in Lebanon is expected tomorrow, per Al-Hadath. And also we saw, so basically the premise here, this was reported in Axios, Lebanon and Israel both prefer a ceasefire to be the result of goodwill from the Israeli side and not to be portrayed as a result of the Iranian pressure. So Israel wanted to massacre hundreds of civilians in Beirut to make it look like, Iran can't pressure us to do anything. We do things on our own volition. We do things because we want to do them, not because Iran tells us otherwise. All right. And then we saw the Iranian delegation leave for Islamabad. Now, keep in mind, initially, the Iranians were saying no ceasefire until there's a complete no ceasefire, no talks until there's a complete halt to hostilities in the entire region, Lebanon included. Then we saw the Iranians say, okay, well, at least, you need to stop with these strikes on Beirut, right? And they're like, okay, maybe we'll do that. Maybe not. Maybe we'll hit Beirut a few more times. And then we had the news that there's going to be a ceasefire tomorrow, today, on the 11th. And the Iranians said, okay, we're going to leave for Pakistan now. Since the start of the Iran war, 41 days, Israel has murdered 1,953, 47 murders per day, and 6,303 injuries in Lebanon alone. So just in 41 days, they've murdered 1,953 civilians. That was as of this morning. Keep in mind, 2-3 days ago, they murdered 300 people in the span of 10 minutes in Beirut. But as U.S. and Iranian delegations began in Pakistan, Israeli strikes on Lebanon continued. Okay, so this was just over the span of 15 minutes, after 15 minutes, after 7 minutes, after 12 minutes, I put this update together just to show people how fast the strikes were taking place. So this was in the Tyre district. We saw a strike, Israeli strikes on the towns of Zatar al-Gharbia and Zatar al-Sharqiya. In southern Lebanon, it was like 15 minutes later, another raid on the town of Halta, Lebanon, and then another one in Hasbaya district. That's how fast they take place. It's like every 12, 15 minutes. And that was at the start of the pre-negotiation talks when Ghalibaf was sitting down with Sharif. So the question is, why would the talks continue? Israel's bombing the villages of Shama, Lebanon with white phosphorus, and they continue to do that tonight. Huge Israeli strikes on southern Lebanon. Each one of these photos and videos I show you is a different strike, different place. And just today alone, Israel murdered over 100 Lebanese civilians in the south, okay, which is already very sparsely, populated. There's not a lot of buildings left. They murdered 100 still, despite that, just in the south of Lebanon today. But the Iranian negotiation delegate, Dr. Hussein Pak, confirmed in the afternoon hours that Iran would not enter true negotiations with the United States until there was a full ceasefire in Lebanon. So they're very clear about that. He was traveling with the negotiation team, part of the negotiation team. He's a delegate of the Iranian team. He said, we're not going to talk with the U.S. directly, indirectly, or otherwise until there's a full ceasefire in Lebanon. But of course, we know that didn't happen. So you understand the slippery slope. And this is why I say, these negotiations, one of the reasons I say these negotiations have been a failure so far. We went from immediate Lebanon ceasefire or we'll strike back to we need to have a ceasefire or we won't go to Pakistan to ceasefire or we won't talk directly with U.S. to if you don't bomb Beirut, we'll negotiate directly to Lebanon ceasefire in a few days is maybe acceptable if you do it, right? It's a slippery slope. It's not a good look. And the people of Lebanon want a ceasefire. Obviously, they're literally protesting against their prime minister right now, who wants to engage in direct negotiations with Israel. The Amal movement and Hezbollah both urge protesters to return home to promote stability in Lebanon. The Israelis are saying that there's going to be a civil war in Lebanon, which I will say there is a not that the Lebanese resistance wants that, but there is a distinct possibility, but that will be forced by the U.S., Israel, and their proxies in the region. And as we end the night with more strikes, with more negotiations, a third round of negotiations, Israel's bombing southern Lebanon again with white phosphorus munitions for the second time today. Before you leave, I want to say thank you for the support, because after 2 years of being banned, we are finally back home on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe to our channel and also join as a member on our channel using the link at the top of the description. I rely on the generous support of viewers like yourself to get the truth out to as many people as possible. You can also support the show on Locals or GiveSendGo. The mainstream media and the powers that be are never going to stop attacking us for bringing the truth to as many people as we do. Thank you so much for your support.